Good afternoon, Your Excellency. I'm really very happy to welcome you here in this very creative and unique format. There I, as a young European ambassador, can pose you questions and to be involved in direct conversation with you. So, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. It is a long time we have not seen each other due to the pandemic, so this is a new format. We need to be creative.
Yes, it's good that you mentioned the pandemic because I think our conversation will be around it today. And as we all know, the economy of the whole world suffered from the pandemic. A lot of fields got affected, but today I want to talk about specifically one field, and it's tourism. So in Armenia, the tourism sector suffered a lot. And not only in Armenia, I think that in the whole world, everybody had the same issue. So what the European Union do to help Armenia and the sector of tourism in Armenia to overcome the problems that arise because of the pandemic?
Well, I think we support Armenia generally to overcome the COVID pandemic, but also to really head for an economic recovery overall. So last year we gave 92 million in order to tackle several fields, and we are working together with the Deputy Prime Minister on a midterm recovery plan to see in which direction your country wants to head to really recover socially and economically. And yes, the tourism sector was heavily affected. We have a project, a big program, together with the GIZ in the 3 northern regions on tourism. So what we did is we really took out grants and gave them to 30 companies who needed to overcome this situation. And I saw a lot of good ideas coming out of this, people thinking or taking the time of the pandemic to really think over what you can do. In a bigger term, we want really to support, to have connections. We are supporting technology, everything that is in the area of startups in the digital sphere, and this you can use for tourism. Because I think this pandemic showed us one thing, that we need to be creative. So whether you have, let's say, a virtual visit of a museum, or you have an online concert, there are possibilities to connect and to really make this country known. And this we want to support. I'm deeply convinced that we will all together overcome this crisis, and Armenia will get out of it stronger, and also the tourism sector.
Yes, and everything mostly is concentrated inside the country and on the internal tourism sector. And it's very good that our sector of internal tourism can get developed as well. But what about the outer world? And what about international tourism as such? Because we usually hear that this is the new normal. So is this the new normal, and should we get adapted to it, or we need to find again solutions to open the borders as well? And what would be this solution, this key to that problem?
As a key to open borders and really to restart international tourism is the COVID situation. So it is a question how a country deals with this crisis. Right now, I think we are all in a lockdown. And for 1 year, I want to go back home, and I never managed to go back to Germany. But always when I intend to go, there is another lockdown. So this is the first thing. It is also, when it gets better, the feeling of the tourists that they can feel safe. And perhaps we have to switch a little bit the perspective. Is it really necessary to go to a big shopping mall to do shopping? Or can we go outside? Are there outside markets? We are supporting also the sportive trails. We are supporting the tourism center in Dilijan, or the arts and crafts center there. So there are unconventional places where you do not find too many people. So make offers. You can do a lot of hiking in this country. You can combine certain things. You have this wonderful summer, outdoor dining. So I think we simply have to change a little bit the perspective that the best is to go in a restaurant that is fully packed instead of offer a picnic in a park, show Gyumri by walking, yeah? And there are, let's say, variations of tourism that are safe, that are fun, where you can get to know this country, and that's what we do. Together with the GIZ, we have an expert here in the tourism committee, and we try to convince them that it is important to have a modern image of your country. And I think we will succeed in this.
I think that every country has its unique features, and yes, every country has a lot of places and layers to be discovered. And I think that the EU has done a lot of work in this field in Armenia to discover our country for ourselves sometimes as well. So really thank you for that. Are there any lessons that the EU has learned, taking into account the Armenian example of tourism? Let's take everything in the frames of tourism. Are there any lessons learned and any practices that can be also used and practiced in other cases as well, in other countries?
I think what you have and what is unique that I always call it looking for the real thing, yeah? So, for example, if you take your music, komitas, and you go to certain places. Also I have seen, and this was not a tourist attraction, I ended up there with some friends, a choir that was exercising. And this was very natural. It was not that they were in the traditional costumes. It was modern and it was classic in the same moment. And these are things we start to do the same in Europe. But that's what I really call your advantage, and this is the deep-rooted history. And if you combine these things, and I have really, you know, I was here before in 2007 to 2009, and it was at that time that I fell in love, because I still saw certain, let's say, very traditionally understanding what you present foreigners, and it was always the same dancing groups. And then suddenly you discover these jewels, because it is simply people who love to sing, or go and discover, let's say, go to Gyumri and discover art. Yeah? So there are things, I would not say this is not also existing in Europe, but here you have a special advantage of this combination between historic buildings, traditions, music, paintings, and this wonderful nature. And the nature is so spectacular, this you cannot imitate. The region I'm coming from is rather flat. So you are very much impressed by this. And I think we can learn from each other. What was ignored here is, let's say, environment. As when I was here in 2008 and went to the mountains, I could have cried to find all these plastic bags everywhere. Or you had the impression people are doing a picnic and leave their stuff behind. So I think now we are on a better way to discover. We are working on Lake Sevana, which is your jewel, and also your lung, also you need it also for the country. So this is important, but really to invent a sustainable tourism, not to go with big groups and destroy the nature, but to do it really to educate people, to give them a chance also to see this nature that is so unique, and not to leave your plastic bag behind.
Yes, that's very important. And people still had a lot of lessons to learn themselves to keep the sustainability and to keep caring about our environment. And maybe one last question. So you have mentioned about the project that the EU is now implementing with the partnership with GIZ. And we also know that the EU has already directed a lot of funds and funding to the countries, to the Eastern Partnership countries, to overcome the difficulties of COVID-19. Are there any projects coming and specifically to the tourism sector, and what people, employees and employers of this sector can expect from the EU in the future for the upcoming years?
Also, we first have this big project which is ongoing and will continue, so I think there will be more opportunities also for businesses in this sector. There are certain other things. I still have the dream of a culinary school. Let's wait whether I can realize this. What we do, I think, is that we want to combine things, and for the time being it is really important that we help to overcome COVID, really to open the country fully again and without danger for you, with all these variants of the COVID virus right now. So what I mean is we give equipment, but we also want to help with the vaccination. I will be the first one to stand on the Republic Square to tell everybody to get vaccinated. I think here is a certain form of over-enthusiasm that you have heard immunity. I'm not convinced this is true. So I think first of all, really get the figures down, get people vaccinated. This also gives more security to visitors who come in. And then I think we will continue also to show, this is also a little bit what we want to do with the GIZ, how is a modern image of a country. Doesn't mean that you have to ignore your history. I'm very, very much convinced that the history is part of a modern image of a country, but you also have this vibrant youth scene, you have this jazz, you have so many things. So not only the traditional side, so and also these young people who have so many good ideas. I think this we need to promote together.
Thank you very much for this very interesting talk, Mrs. Ambassador. This is very, very good opportunity for us to know you better and to hear all your comments directly and to have these talks between ambassadors, young ambassador and
exactly.
Your Excellency. Thank you
we
very
are
much.
in one boat.